Hello, friends, and welcome to Camp Vortex. I'm Ramsay Mead. What I really do is I offer a guiding experience to help awaken the true potential of each individual. And today I have with me Christy Walker, who joined me for a transformational experience. I wanted to bring her onto the program to share with you her experience. Christy is a nurse practitioner that works with veterans. She's a yoga teacher, Reiki practitioner, and she teaches meditation. And she's an amazing individual, and I want to welcome her to the show. Welcome, Christy.
Well, thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
It's awesome. I wanted to really bring you on and share the experience that we've had working together and what you experienced out in the desert when you came.
Yes, absolutely. So every year I kind of have, a time I sit down, and this year I was looking to really solidify some of the work that I've been doing, getting a little bit more clearing. And I love being in nature to have space to do this work, which is how I ended up, finding Camp Vortex and coming and working with you.
It's awesome.
I'm just excited to be able to share a little bit about that journey.
Absolutely. Well, and the thing is, when you come out to this type of environment and experience all the different things that we worked on, and obviously the things that you've been working on, all like what is most often called as the work, or the challenges that you have in your life, and you're trying to make that initial transition to a better position, right?
Yeah.
And so share with everyone like some of the stuff that we did and like
Sure. Yeah. So came out. This was a private retreat. So
working one-on-one, immersive, right? Yeah.
Which I will say, just for first off, it was my first time to do a private retreat. And I just saw it as kind of like a gift offering. I've done a lot of retreats, but nothing quite like this experience of being out in Joshua Tree at your Camp Vortex. The experience, from everything from being able to do grounding work out in the desert, hiking through Joshua Tree, working with sound energy, some of the practice modalities that you offered really kind of helped seal in and solidify things for me. And I can only express that it was a very unique experience with just a beautiful energy, really clean energy to do my own process. So I came out with a lot of intentions I was already working through, and I just showed up, and
we're ready to do
everything that you had set up. Yes, it was exactly. I couldn't have maybe planned it how I wouldn't in my mind have understood what was going to happen.
That's awesome. Well, and I've tried to orchestrate a schedule, if you will, of all these things to really make an impact on the necessary changes that you're trying to make. And obviously we spent a lot of time talking, discussing a lot of the things that perhaps you were working on, going through directionally, and then grounding the body. For a moment, let's just talk about like the grounding ceremony, going out to a section of the desert where, I put you down on the bare desert floor as we prepared with some just light breathing and things like that. And then we did some drumming and some sage and some, all the essential things to really ceremonially get you connected to ground at a deeper level and to clear your body systems to allow you to expand your mind in a natural way.
Yeah.
To get clarity and really open from there. And so explain, when we did that, how did you feel, and how did you feel perhaps after we did that?
So I really love ritual, and I loved that you had this whole process that you were going to kind of walk me through, and being out on the desert ground, that was actually one of maybe I think the last day, being in the elements. I remember laying there on the surface of the earth. It was a little uncomfortable, because of the sensation.
There's no memory foam.
There's no memory, but there's the sensation of really how just to feel, to be present, connecting. We talk a lot about grounding, like just letting myself be there, getting quiet, getting still. And I say the uncomfortable because, you know, I guess it was just being in the elements, feeling the coolness of the earth, my body, even my own body heat. So the experience, I will say, was the only way I could compare is like being out on the side of a mountain and dealing with the elements, and just allowing myself to be immersed in the experience and letting it, like transmuting, allowing this deeper energy transference to happen.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I always felt like it was like I was being held. I was being held by the hand of Earth or God, if you will, where it's not necessarily. I find comfort in it, but it's not a real comfortable. When you're laying there, it's not like it's a, it's not like the memory foam I use for the sound healing, right? It's a different thing, but there is a scientific flushing of the negative charge of the body into the earth, and what it does is it helps recalibrate the body, and it's such a to a natural state of being that it allows us. We're just surrounded with so much noise and radiation and all kinds of things, and so here's an opportunity where there's such stillness, no sound. We're away from any sort of light or noise pollution, and we can have a container, if you will, to really regulate the body, and it's part of the process.
Yeah. And I will say that's what I felt, the takeaway. It's like going in with an open mind, and that's really how I approach the whole retreat. Like they talk about the beginner's mind, the open mind, and knowing that the medicine, the practice, there is medicine that will be delivered through the process. And I think I was in that space when I came. So it was very healing.
You were ready. You were ready.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing to position yourself to, and working with a lot of different type of people. A lot of times they come and they're not in that state, and I have to kind of bring them up in order to receive a lot of the stuff that I do to be effective, because they're just kind of stuck, or there's still, I think a lot of the times too, being out there in the desert, how you were, is that you have to step kind of away from what we consider to be like the matrix, all the flow of what we were conditioned to, how we're told how to live, that perhaps isn't working for us anymore. And so we're like, let me just hit pause, go to this desert location that I may not know a lot about, right? And then allow myself to experience that, what that side of nature has to offer, and what these modalities and techniques that I'm going to be presented with.
And just working with you and what you bring, what you offered, it was just such a unique encounter for me. And I felt like the love, the lightness, the elevated sense of who you are. And it's just like being in this sanctuary, this sacred space to do work.
I love it. Thank you.
So that was, for me, it was like, this is a place I would want to come back to. So I love what you do. It means a lot here.
I thank you so much. And I have to, I have had a lot of friends, Sunny, everybody has seen the vision that I had, and I've had a lot of amazing support, because it's a heavy job. It's a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of moving parts to really try to get what try to create. So I know when people come, that my whole goal is like when they leave, they have what they need to go back to make those adjustments and feel rejuvenated and have, wow, like that was, I was able to create a space to move into, to give me what I need to go do the things I need to do back in my life. And so, in terms of, designing the place, putting it all together, getting all the necessary things that I've done over the years, that I envisioned, that I wanted to have this type of working space, offering that type of thing. And it's awesome to hear that.
I have to say, like, you really listened, and you were like, what are you looking for? So it was that one-on-one experience. We did a photo shoot. We were climbing up on the rocks. I would.
Well, you're a magnificent yoga practitioner, and I see these locations. I'm in them all the time, right? The rocks, everything, and I'm thinking, take that pose, get up there. We got to shoot that. The light's perfect. We got the sky is amazing, and we got some great shots, and it all came together. It was great, and I was so excited to when I saw you, doing your yoga and everything, like, hold that, we need to go over here, dude.
It was.
You get out there, and it's awesome. It's a wonderful environment for working on the spiritual side of development. And when I say that, everyone is spiritual, and everyone should connect with nature in a particular way that is enriching of the deep essence of who we are. In the Joshua Tree area, and the area that I'm in, offers so many different diversities of desert, and we experience, like, where the mountains meet the desert, the flatlands, obviously, the Joshua Tree, even my property can transform sometimes into, it's just, the desert environment is just perfect for what I want to do, and for how, when people want to go into a nature that work on the inner parts of themselves, and it's just an amazing place, and it has an energy of its own, and I believe all nature has its own unique energy, but definitely here in the desert, it's got a
and so, and I wanted to just share, like, as using the earth as an ally. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, in your space, working with your particular energy, creating, a safe place, sanctuary to come do the work. So, I hope that it's hard to encapsulate it all, but I was going to ask you, how has this past year been for you? I know since I was out there.
It's
out in Joshua Tree.
The last year, working with people in the last year.
People in the past year.
Yeah, it's I've been very blessed. Working with people of all different types of challenges and overcoming traumas, and a lot of times in the last year, I've actually worked with some people that I haven't worked with that type of challenge before, and it was very beneficial to even some of the things that I'm developing, working with other people, and even reflecting on my own past. Looking at whether it's challenges that I had to overcome, or working with people that have certain challenges that I may be familiar with but have not worked on before. So this last year was really amazing in that way. And I've had people come from all over the world, and everything from, relationship issues, trying to figure out where they're at in their lives at this point, and what that looks like, and looking for those type of answers that just you never stop striving for, and that kind of thing. Dealing with extreme traumas, everything from death, loss of a job, to what's the next step for me, and to entrust me to help them in that process, and together come to a solution to work towards in that process.
That's beautiful.
And I've been very lucky. I'm very lucky, and for me, I always take time off after working with somebody so I can absorb the experience fully. And then sometimes it does take a little bit of energy that I have to bring back into my body. So I find that taking some time off, and what I like to do is just I like to wander out into nature and kind of just be, and then, contemplate and review the experience, and then be able to come back into my life, and then slowly start to move forward, and then, because I generally have somebody else coming, right? So I don't
exactly.
want to see somebody right after they leave. I take a little time and then process it through, and that kind of thing, and then usually there's follow-ups, or people will work with me ongoing afterwards. And so understanding the situation, understanding them, learning more about myself has been amazing in this last year. And I've had so many great people come out, and it's I've been very fortunate to do what I do, and I try to live more of an analog life where I don't have a lot of connection. I'm not real great, perhaps, at social media. I don't, my time is kind of all over the place. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I have 2 other children, and so I'm working a lot. I'm working with people a lot, and when that happens, I can't shut myself into that computer profile too long. Otherwise, I start to lose my cool,
How do you
my footing.
how do you like for yourself, so you kind of like healing outside of it, you kind of mentioned, so whenever a client leaves you take time, how do you do that for yourself?
So I usually allow myself, depending on how intense it was. I had a couple situations this last year where it was pretty intense, some real deep trauma. And when you're spending time one-on-one with somebody, and you're not afraid to go in deep. So when people realize that I'm not afraid, they'll lift, and they'll kind of come into that and be willing to share. And then all of a sudden you leave into a new dimension that you perhaps couldn't get into, because you're really, a lot of us are a victim of circumstances, and we have to find that right circumstance to engage in. We need support. We need to know that somebody is actually, when they're sitting with us, they're with us, right? And so when someone shares something that's very personal and very detailed, and had a traumatic footprint, you're there, and you're working in that, and there may be ups and downs as you're processing, and they're not always great. And we always try to find that place and come back to it where we're able to get some sort of leverage and work within that to a higher level. Obviously that's why people would come out, right? And so, but at the end of that, as that relationship of ours uncouples, because we're working together in a common interest, then what I have to do is I have to give myself time, because I can't jump right into something super heavy next. I don't really like to go into a deep thought process that involves a stressful situation or take something on. I need to let that move through my body. My body works in a way which I'm absorbing energy. So I absorb energy and bring it in. But I've also learned too that you can't hold on to that. You can get weakened or sick by it, or that type of thing. So you have to process it, but feelings have to be processed even when they're other people's feelings, because you feel those, whether it's through empathy or just understanding. And then from there, I take I make sure that I eat really well. I exercise, to move blood through my body. You breathe, obviously breath work, that type of thing. Usually go through a series of whether it's sauna therapy, cold showers, ice baths, or whatever. Just to relax the body and move the energy through the body. Make sure I sleep really well too. Just really take care, nurture myself for the next few days, and then allow myself to come back. And sometimes nature plays a big part in that, as I connect deeper with nature, whether it's animals, whether it is just the conditions of nature, going into a space in nature where it's just, there's no sounds, where I can just be and let the body just acclimate to that and then come back. And I usually know when, the longest it's ever really taken me, I always give myself a maximum of 3 days, but I can usually do it in an uninterrupted 1 day, sometimes 2, without being bothered or being brought back into the world. And I like having that opportunity to work in that way. For me, that means a lot to me. I think we have to really choose how we can be the most beneficial to people around us, or our jobs, or our passions, and look at like what that represents to us. And so I really try to look at that and act that way. I just know that if I didn't do what I do, I don't know if I could possibly do it.
Right.
It's
No, I love that. It's like, because I'm thinking, if I would say, like, even for me coming out, working as a practitioner, working, with veterans, also doing, working in other modalities, but so the practitioners need, like, how do we keep from being burned out?
Right.
How do we, offer ourselves restoration? And it's almost like giving ourselves these little gifts, these these experiences to, I love what you shared, because I know that's part of why I came out.
Rejuvenation. Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
I have a lot of therapists that come out. I have a lot of practitioners. I have friends of friends come out. We all need it, right? And we all have to find that way, and with different circumstances and things like that, where you just can't get those answers, or you don't get that the amount of support in an environment that can nurture the soul in that way. And everything that we do in today is actually taking us further away from that. There's so many things that like pull us further and further away from at the essence of who we really are, and where we can get down to that pureness of who we are and not be afraid to understand it. That's when we can really grow, and that's when we can understand how we're working in our environment, because that's you're doing amazing things, and you get dents taken out of you, especially when you least expect it. Somebody shows up that presents a big challenge that you have to really like be present. I call it waking up. Like somebody wakes, like not that I'm ever asleep, but sometimes people show up with something, and it's like, and I just kind of, I'm listening to them. I'm like, okay, you got to wake up. You got to help this person. This person is here. They need you. You have to respond. You know what to do. This is what's playing on in my head. And so with that, I start thinking about how can I make this time so valuable to them,
Yeah.
And as a practitioner, I think other practitioners work in a very similar way in their own unique ways. But the thing is that you have to be taking care of yourself. And we have this term, self-care that exists today, it's very all over the place, but it's really true. We have to really look at, if we want to go into that environment, if we're prepared, if we know we have a cage fight coming up, we better prepare ourselves for it.
True. It's true. These are built in, and I'm saying for myself, I usually do like once every quarter. I completely go off. I get away, and so that is part of the experience.
That's awesome.
So for the healing properties of Mystic Sky, what do you find that either you believe is there in that space that you have created that has the healing properties of the retreat?
Well, I guess in myself, what I would think is, first of all, there's the property itself, right? The property, yeah. So the property itself, it was, it all started with like a vision, in the sense of, Sonny and I we had another property, and there was a lot of trial and error with that. And I used to lease out a lot of properties that I would do retreats and events and things like that. And so, a seed was planted, like, this is what I need, this is what I want. And then from there, kind of orchestrating it how I wanted it, and then like really putting a lot of love emphasis on it. Like, this is what I love, and this is this is how I want people to feel. And this is the kind of the end result of how I want everything to kind of come together. And then I've made some changes and adjustments. And I just feel like when I'm doing my work there, like this is all like my life kind of like, like, yes, in some ways my life's work, but more like I've done, when I was doing this, I was thinking about how this would help people in this way, or like how it's like so beneficial that I found. And so when I put it together, I have all these things and the design, the lay of the ground, all the stuff like that to kind of put it together to create an impact, and to see people come in and how it affects them in certain ways is really amazing. And I can't imagine, I used to, work in like very congested areas, or, go to people or whatever. And this is where they can kind of come in and just, this is what I have to offer. This is my environment. Please come in, make yourself at home. This is all about you. And I kind of look at it like, while you're here, this is your place. I just happen to be here guiding you through the process, and I don't really, I don't even look like I really own it. I don't think I really own anything for that matter. But I think that I oversee it, right? And oversee the property and have it set up in a way which, people can come in and feel that there's a part of them that exists in that they can just feel comfortable with and go from there. And I've had some, I guess for some people it's a remote area of the desert, and they come out there and they're like, wow, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't feel that way, but sometimes people do. And I've had some people come out that were like, this is just like, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. It's just like me and you, and, that kind of thing. And, I tried to explain to them, like, listen, this has been constructed for the benefit of this.
There's a purpose behind this.
Right. And
connection.
And then it starts to, that starts to fade away, and then they embrace it, and they're able to really grasp hold of it.
I have to say that's part of coming. I like the reverb of being in the city. I'm saying the reverb, the noise of the city, to go out where we're
to get away. Yeah.
It's all of a sudden there's complete quiet, and there's this, it's like a black hole that now it's this endless void, and that can feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
When people are used to the noise and the constant moving and going.
It can be very, you're exactly right. It can be very uncomfortable. I think there's and I think sometimes too, when there's what you're saying is exactly right. And I've also seen where people come out and they start yawning and apologizing for being so tired because their system isn't working on all those other distractions, the noise, just the stress load, all that stuff. And so now their body is able to start entering into a more of a healing state and using that. And it's like, okay, we need to rest now. We're out. We need to rest and start to enter into a more rebuilding and relaxation, because a lot of times people are so on edge, whether it's anxiety, whatever is driving them to not really be themselves, right? And then sitting with somebody that's ready and isn't bringing any stuff, that's there is unusual in this environment that we live in, because most people carry a lot of stuff with them, right? And it's like, and you, when you can just, and it can be maybe awkward at first, or until it starts to
That to me, like, so what you just said makes complete sense. It's hard to put this into words, but it is a charge, it is an energy change that happens
big
in the vast sky.
I've seen it in faces. I've seen it in their bodies. When I've done body work on people, within the second, like sometimes when I have people come for like a 5-day period, I see and feel drastic changes. I feel their energy when they come in and what they're holding on to. And a lot of times I can tell, like, it's a relationship issue before they even, a lot of times people will share with me prior to coming some of their, like, I'm really struggling with this. This is what I need. Need some sort of guidance in this. I need to like be in nature. And so I sometimes get a little storyline or understanding of what they're experiencing. Sometimes they just show up and I just had an individual come out from the East Coast, flew in the Palm Springs, rented a car, came out, parked directly on the other side of the doorway, got out of the car, came and sat down in front of me and just told me exactly what's bothering him.
Wow.
And that does happen, but not all the time. But it shows you that how desperate people are to get out of what they're in. And when they know that they can go to a place and really sit down and work on it, that when they get there, they're ready.
Absolutely.
Ready to go. And, I really applaud that. And it's amazing. And this particular individual has shifted his life in such a way, it's unbelievable. And I'm so proud of that person. And it's just amazing. And the environment, I know I've spent, Christy, the first property that I had, I spent getting it ready. I was probably out there for like 6 months. It was a long time. And I started to get to the point where I didn't want to leave because I was just I felt so safe and protected in that field that exists out there. And when you're there for a while, it changes the way that you are experiencing stress. And I don't want to be accused as an escapism or running away from problems or anything like that. I think what it can do though is it can give you a really good pause on your life.
Yeah.
And then I have had quite a few people come back. And so when I look back when I was young, or in parts in my life when I was going through a lot of challenges, I looking back, I just wish that I had a place that I could do that, where I could step away and, not be so connected to, not having my problems own me, where I could take moments away and get clarity and then recognize the distance from that. And now knowing, going back in, how can I handle that? What's my plan? How am I going to execute my life differently so I can have advantage over what was defeating me in that way?
Tell me about your upbringing. I know we talked a little bit, but how did...
So I was the youngest of 3 kids, and I grew up not in the most supportive, loving environment, and I learned a lot. And then there's just certain things that I learned as a child that as I was getting older, that I learned a lot of things and what not to do, and that was a big reinforcement in me. And as I experienced, some pretty heavy traumas, and as I thought I was getting kind of moving away from those traumas, then I got sick and I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And when I got Crohn's disease, they thought it was cancer, and I didn't know. I just didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought I questioned whether I was dying or that kind of thing. And so I was fortunate to I really failed in Western medicine. The medications they gave me, I rejected. I didn't, reject them in the sense I didn't take them. I took them and my body rejected.
Wow.
And I got sicker. I had problems.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom, at that time I was being raised just by my mom because my dad had died a year earlier. And so alternatively, she was looking at other options. And so I ended up with this acupuncturist, and it started to affect me in positive ways where I would feel different and things like that. And these were all Chinese medicine, meridians, herbs, and things like that I was very unfamiliar with at the time. And so he gave me a book called the Tao Te Ching, and I guess at that point I didn't really know any different. And so I read it, and it just resonated with me. And then from that point on, I just kind of like, I just took matters into my own hands, and I started really learning a lot about nutrition, and how Chinese medicine was beneficial for me. And then from there, I just kind of like became a sponge and a passion for everything that was involved with basically alternative medicine. Because after seeing my dad die, my dad suffered, I believe it was like 3 massive heart attacks, 2 really massive ones. And then I witnessed his death right in front of me.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to experience a lot of things that were, that caused me to really wake up at that time. And learning so much at a young age about Western medicine and what we're really being told, and how ineffective it can be.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so from there, I was given so many medications to take, and I just knew that, like, whatever was wrong with me, I didn't have a deficiency that involved these medications.
Mm.
And I knew, and at that time I was buying and reading a lot of real interesting books, because there was no internet. So I was finding a lot of, everything from like, these old school bodybuilder books that were heavy into natural nutrition, which was really interesting. And then a lot of herb books, Chinese, a lot of things. And I was just kind of going through and reading books on yoga, everything that was just so alternative and interesting at the time. And then from there, I just put together a thought process of, I'm going to use food as medicine, and I'm going to allow myself, and I had a discussion with my mom, and I don't even think my mom is like, she's approaching 90 today, but
Amazing.
I don't even think she understands even now what I went through, like the process and understanding of and, most of my life, I guess I've been considered kind of more extreme, and I don't see it that way. I see it as an individual, and I've worked with so many people.
Why would extreme? I'm curious what
of wanting to put disease behind you and doing whatever possible to do such. And for me, I just never wanted to be enslaved to any sort of medical agenda or pharmaceutical drug. It didn't make any sense to me, seeing my dad taking pills and like getting sicker, and seeing like what happens as you start taking one. You never start taking one medication. You start taking one medication that leads to 3 medications, that leads to 5 to 10 to 20. And it's unbelievable the amount of medication certain people will take. And most of my life, I've had people reach out to me offering certain medical interventions towards Crohn's, and I wasn't suffering from any of the symptoms, but people are so locked into the pharmaceutical industry and how doctors are educated in that dimension to treat something like that. And what I found is that I was willing to go to the furthest extreme to move past that disease state. And in order to do that, I had to learn a lot of different things. And that meant learning a lot about the emotional condition that I experienced as a child, and the blueprint of that, and what it did to my body, what it did to my energy system of my body. The nutritional component, why was I having so many exacerbated food conditions, food allergies, food intolerances, and things like that. And when I would have such stiffness in my body, my tissues, everything, and I was very inflexible, so I was like this shell that was blocked and just fragmented and just sick, right? And so as I started to peel back the layers and understand and retrace memories of how they affected me as a child, how certain foods were like reacting in my body, and trying to understand certain things that perhaps, alcoholism that my dad had, the lack of support, love, things like that were that I couldn't outwardly express as a child, that were affecting me and affecting the development, how my DNA was not turning on, how things were. And then what I started to believe in myself and understand that I was very extremely healthy, that the potentiality was there. I had to find the potential. And so from there, as I started to learn and really see and feel the results, I kept striving for more and more and more and more. And I realized that I had so much power in myself to move past that disease state. And then from there, I was completely removed from Crohn's. I had no symptoms or anything, reactions or all that. And years ago, I wrote a book called Cured from Crohn's, which I actually got a warning. I spoke at a conference one time, and I wasn't invited back because they thought I was a doctor, and so I was asked not to come back. Actually, the doctor who had me at the event was amazing. She was great, but she was worried about a lawsuit or something like that. And I was told that I should change the title of the book because nobody gets cured from Crohn's and all that. And so, and I had this book available online probably in the early 2000s, and I had people from all over the world reach out to me. It was a PDF and say how it's helped their kids. Like all these people, letters and everything, emails. It was great. So I pulled it, and I thought I was going to really, okay, well, I'm going to add some more things because I've progressed more and some more interesting things to add to it. And I'm going to, publish this book and put it out there. And then I found this marketer, online marketer guy that was like, because I guess his brother-in-law had Crohn's, and he's like, I can't believe you beat it. We got to do this thing. And so he took it and ran with it. And then I got canceled because people didn't believe that I ever had Crohn's, and they didn't believe that I was Crohn's free without any medications. So I closed that wound and I moved on. And I really, from that moment on, I put an emphasis on helping people really working with traumas and that kind of thing in that way. So I don't really directly work with people with digestive issues anymore or any of that kind of thing. And I don't know, life just has a certain turn that you go and you find your way. But that was really it. And it really, if anything, it shows how sad we're brainwashed by Western medicine and how we have such an innate ability within us to heal. And, whether it's herbs, vitamins, food, water, hydration, all these things that we have access to, if they're clean and they're pure, are extremely powerful. And then how we move our body, the thoughts we have, the people we surround ourselves with, all these things, the sleep patterns we keep have the impact. And when I worked in a medical clinic, the one thing that I really learned overall was it didn't matter. There are certain medications that can be beneficial for types of conditions. There are certain supplements that can be very powerful. And there's certain interventions, medical interventions, treatments, and things like that too. But it was the people that were following the change and the lifestyle modifications were always making big strides and gains and getting to where they wanted to go. But the people that didn't want to make those changes never improved. And so there's
meaning like the diet, the lifestyle measure what
getting the bed on time, getting sunlight, getting all the essential things that make us glow the best, right? And just doing those were far exceeded anything, and all the testing and everything that we did and all that. Because a lot of times I worked with people that had, that were very wealthy, and then I had people that didn't have a lot of money, and I've always worked with people sometimes that didn't have health, that were sick, that had come to me and said, listen, I know you're the guy to help me. What can I do? And it's hard sometimes because of the way that they're living, but those are the most impactful things that you can do. And I think that most often people are just brought up in conditioning to think that, I need to take this medication to alleviate this problem and that type of thing. And most often it's making it worse. And it has nothing to do with the aspect of what you're trying to get to,
Absolutely. Well, if I may ask you, what is your thoughts on plant medicine as a modality, as a healing modality?
Plant medicine. So are you talking about vegetables?
Yeah.
So yeah, plants. There's a lot of movement in the ayahuasca, the psilocybin, all the different types, right? Of natural plant medicines, and I think that they're extremely beneficial. I think they're gaining a lot of popularity and gaining a lot of ground right now. I think that before, we look as an individual looking at a plant medicine experience, we need to look at where they're at in their life.
Meaning like doing work or
Yes,
level of consciousness, awareness,
all those, right? But being in a state where, like if you're going through, if you're experiencing a heavy load of trauma, it's probably not the best time to jump right in. You need to kind of step away and have some moments of contemplation and doing some of the work to process things out. And I don't think it's a really good option for a lot of people. I think it has to be really looked at in a very caring way and understanding way. And when you perform with the medicine, you have to have a set way of doing it. In preparation, working with the right people, environment, setting obviously is a huge thing in plant medicine. And
can you talk about set and setting for?
So who you're doing it with, and where you're doing it.
Okay.
Because your mind and your body need to feel connected and comfortable in order to really gain the most benefit from it. It's our bodies are what is holding on to everything. The memories, the experiences, and our minds tend to want to work fast and process things in a way which often aren't always the best. And we're really trying to get a lot of that mental congestion drained out of the head and let the body process it. And the body is always in a state of wanting to feel and understand. And the plant medicine can really be extremely beneficial to a lot of people and met with many long-standing traumatic episodes, and to really connect things that perhaps we couldn't get to. And under the right circumstances, we can have a plant medicine experience and really push beyond and now move forward and gain an experience which we couldn't do before, which is really inspiring for a lot of people that have been in therapy for long periods of time that haven't really gone to the next level, had that breakthrough experience. And when done properly and with the right situation, it can be extremely beneficial.
So, and I know there's a lot of clinical trials that are going on for
psilocybin,
and for people who have emotional imbalances. in a controlled setting. And I love the word, and it's like the rewiring, renegotiating, that if someone is not, like, how do you determine if someone is who's looking, maybe to enhance where they're at?
Right.
Who would you say, okay, this is could be a beneficial experience for you in your healing journey?
Yeah, I think it's it's important, the mental condition, right? If somebody is like having if you're on medical drugs and you're in a very unstable condition, it's probably not the best to and embark on a journey like that, especially when you want to have be working with some sort of guide, or and like I said, with somebody that's it's a certain type of person that you have to really be qualified to experience that type of journey. And if it's done properly, it can be extremely helpful. And I have seen it with people work wonders. But again, and there's certain junctions in your life that it's not appropriate, and there's other ones that are. And a lot of people can, I think the kind of the critiquing of it is there's a lot of people that are doing the work, as they say, working on themselves and trying to, further their experience and who they are and all those things, and understand life better and their place in life. And there are some people that can just bear down and meditate every day and move the body with cultivation such as yoga, and do all the necessary things to really help enrich the wholeness and the healthy, holistic nature of the being. And then there's people that aren't at that level. And it's not to say that they can't enjoy a plant medicine experience. In fact, maybe some of those people are in a very good position to have access to that, because they just can't find themselves doing there. But knowing that
you mean to create an awakening so that they maybe understand or have more clear thinking for what?
Yeah, I've seen people that have done a plant medicine experience that perhaps in a general way, maybe haven't been to a yoga class, maybe haven't even really been able to get their minds on meditation, haven't been able to really discipline themselves to get into that lifestyle that's going to support them to really make those necessary changes that they're looking for to be a more conscious being. So if they can align themselves enough in a supportive way to have a plant medicine experience, they can come out of it and now find ways to enrich themselves and be more open, such as whether it is like taking a yoga class, or learning meditation and having a healthier practice of daily rituals to help support them to navigate through a lot of the problems that they're occurring in their lives and unfolding in a more constructive, conscious way, to allow them to live a more full, healthy life. Because that's really what it is. It's not about getting high. I dragged my feet a lot on a lot of the plant medicine stuff at first, because my brother had a problem with drugs, and I was around it, and my brother was kicked out of the house at 14 for smoking marijuana. So like I got to experience, and I was very fearful of drugs, and that and what that meant, and I saw how it broke up my family life. And so for me, when looking at that and seeing like drugs and like our government and how they have classified drugs and use drugs and like drug wars and things like that, and how we've been lied to, and all the different things that unfold politically, and just to step away from that and to see how pharmaceutical drugs are used, and how can certain types of drugs be so readily available that are so harmful,
right?
And so to see the plant medicine and yes, there are some negative effects to that, and I think there's pros and cons to everything. We get in this pigeonhole of thinking that all has to be one way, but life doesn't work in that way. What we have to do is understand, like, this can be beneficial for this individual in this way, and not to be constantly connected to it. You don't have to use it every day, right?
Right.
It's how do I use this to elevate my situation and circumstances. And I think there's a lot of benefit to it, and I've seen a lot of it. And so it's an exciting thing, and it's an exciting thing to see how we're going to legalize a lot of these drugs and make them more, useful for people, and supportive ways that can elevate the consciousness and raise the communities in a better way.
And back to Ramsay, you said the set and the setting. Again, it's the person you're working with and the setting that you're in to use these modalities, not only medicine, but I think also doing the deeper work,
exactly,
layers, and
exactly
the work that you offer at Camp Vortex.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, the thing is, like, even when you say if you do a plant medicine, there's always other things to be working on too. And plant medicine can be powerful, and it can elevate you to a circumstance. Then you get to a certain position. It's like, what do you do then? And it's just like, it's like a yoga practice, right? You learn a new pose, you master it, and then you want another one, right? You just, like, and your body feels it, and you feel yourself open up. And now it's like, now I'm open for another one, and I have the courage within me to try a new different pose, and I'm open for it, and it's that kind of thing. And that's what makes life exciting. And I think a lot of people, when they're really being held down, they're just trying to get up and just come to the surface and grab a little bit of air. But once you get that air and you start to tread water in the top, and you look around and you see, like, man, there's a lot of islands out here. I'm going to swim to this island. You get on that island and you're like, well, let's go and explore, and let's see what this is. And you start to really, and that's what living really is. It's not about being, holding back. It's about being able to really explore who you are, and who cares what other people think, right? It's like, that's none of your business. And just getting out there and being, this is who I am. People may not know who I am, and that's okay. But how I present myself and how I feel about myself is everything. Right. And then from there, you start attracting people that connect with you. And then that connection starts to grow. And then from there, they're growing, you're growing, everyone starts to grow. And that's what it's all about. If you were constantly just stifled and not really connecting with somebody and not allowing yourself to really be who you want to be. And a lot of people make the mistake of thinking about who they're really striving to be is an idea or vision of somebody else, like through conditioning, right? And so once you kind of break away from that and, like, hey, that's not really who I want to be. And a lot of times we
giving people permission
to really develop themselves in ways, and open up and have freedom to explore and to find that,
and how would be, I heard that getting out of the rational mind, which usually is a construct of our past,
right?
Our
conditioning,
the conditioning, and that's why I love this, what you're offering in this space and the conversation we're having. These are gifts to go in and deconstruct.
Yeah, and just
let things.
I think sometimes we just have to look at ourselves differently. Just look at because, as we come into conditioning, whether it's through our parents, siblings, or, we don't get to choose who we're surrounded with when we're young, right? And so we find ourselves and we gravitate towards this, whether it's a political idea, finding, even the type of foods that we eat. And when you get to that point where you question it and really questioning things, like not even being angry or upset, just why is that? Why is that so? And is it serving me well?
Yeah.
And without, being intrusive about it. A lot of times when I'm working with people, I'm just trying to understand them.
Yeah.
And if they don't understand themselves, I have to try to understand their situation, right?
And part of the understanding is that you have the capacity to go in and kind of anchor into those thoughts, which, I mean, that's really what I found very unique that you do. You really follow it down to the rabbit hole. Like, where is this coming from? Is this true? Is it not true? Let's work on this. Let's stay here with this.
Getting past judgment of any kind, right?
Yeah.
Just and properly assessing the situation,
Yeah.
like being truthful and being aware, and just working within that and being real with it. And a lot of times when we feel pain, we think the easiest thing is to move away from it. But as we move away from it, it becomes more painful. And then if we step away from it and we come back to it and we're not prepared, then we're shell shocked. And so as I got older, as I went through a divorce that was pretty intense. It was very, heartbreaking and that kind of thing, and having kids and going through that and going through a recession at the time, all these things, a lot of stress, right? A lot of stress. And I was just like, I kept thinking to myself, I just want to get to the next chapter. This one is not where I want to be. And as I was in it, I realized that I had to get so present to understand how I was going to get through it. And so, like, being in it. And at the time, I was dating a girl, and I remember I was sitting on a couch with her, and she said to me, she goes, "You're never able to relax."
Wow.
And she started to cry. And I was like, and I didn't say it, but I was like, she's right. And then I she was crying, but then I started to feel upset for myself because I realized why she was crying, right? And so I was like, and this was somebody who's worked on their body a lot, like, because when I basically got Crohn's because I was absorbing every bit of pain that was surrounding me, so it was attacking me, right? And so when I was sitting with her and she said that, it made me realize that I hadn't quite mastered this yet. And so I was like, okay, there's more work I have to do. There's more work I have to do, and I have to protect myself, and I have to go through this. And I remember, I always try to remember, I know this may sound crazy for a lot of people, but I always try to remember the effects of pain. A lot of people try to move past it, but I try to remember it, because then it makes me appreciate when I feel good, and it makes me appreciate, when something good is happening, because then I can associate the yin and the yang, the balance of it all. If I just, and when I went through a divorce, I came to, I meditated with a yogi, and he had said to me, in order for you to move forward, you're going to have to release your good memories and your bad memories. They're one and the same. And it took me a moment to kind of to get it, but then I got it. And then I just realized that it never existed. Yes, it did exist. And it only exists for those that were involved in it. And most often, they may not even remember it. So it's just a memory. It's this memory game that you play. And the thing is that nobody really cares. The only person that would care was myself. And I realized that the hurt that was being delivered to me, and it mattered most to my children. And so my children, what is moving forward with them? Because it's all moving forward. So everything was just an experience for me to learn. And once I understood it, I could just remove it completely and get rid of it. And then I could just be present. And then I could just focus on what I had control over. and because none of that was. And so if you sit there, and they refer to it as the Buddha cage, where you get trapped into experiences. Now you gauge all your future experiences on the previous. So whether it's a relationship that I had, how somebody loved me, how something felt good to me, how I got these accolades or whatever, they no longer exist. They have no significance whatsoever. And the experience that I had, so if you're in a relationship, now you're holding on to an experience that you had with somebody into a new experience. So now you're violating them. You're holding them accountable for those feelings and experience. So it was like a cascade of release that happened. And I was just like, oh my God, this is making total sense to me. And it allowed me to free up and to like rebirth myself in a way, which even today I find myself like, that it's like I never existed. And what's interesting, Christy, too, is as I get older, most of the friends I had from high school are no longer alive. So all those memories and experience are gone. You know what I mean? Like people look at it in a different way. Like I have to hold on to this. I have to, and the thing is, it's like life as we know it is happening right here. And we talk about the present moment and how important it is, but it's what's moving us forward. What are we doing in that regard? How are we approaching it? If we're thinking about the past and just always and this is where obviously a lot of depression and things like that. Nothing will ever live up to the past, and this relationship I had or whatever. It's like it sets you up for total disaster. And you see it in a lot of people that have, when a relationship ends, it's hard. I mean, it's not easy at first because you're still, your energy hasn't been cut yet.
Right.
It's still
attached.
Connected.
It's still attached. Yeah. A lot of it.
But you're dealing, and especially when you're dealing with a lot of traumas that stay within the energy field, the aura, if you will. But
talk anything about that? Just clearing.
So when you're in, you can, there's a lot of practices you can do to clear your energy, a lot of different things involving, whether it's the chakras, the nadis, meridian channels, all these things are connected to the energetic body. But there's also, your mind. Your mind is what is feeding the body, right? The body is collecting all the information and it's sensing and feeling it. So it's all there. Your heart is the essence of who you are, and your soul that exists in here. So your brain and the memories and the movies and everything that we play in our head, and how these can just completely work in our favor or work absolutely against us. Mm-hmm. So when we're looking at reprogramming ourselves, we have to look at how we're controlling our thought process and how it's allowing us to feel. If you ever want to change something, you have to get a feeling about it, or if you want to really, like make, like say, you just had something really exciting happen with you. You just had started a relationship with somebody, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not how you think about that person, it's how you feel about that person, right? As soon as that feeling starts to fade or go away, then all of a sudden you have what they call an issue, right? But as long as you have that feeling, you don't let the other, you may have problems, right? You may have indifferences or, whatever it may be, but you're able to work through them because you have a feeling, right? You have that feeling. So when you met him, I'm sure there was like commonalities that you had with each other, right? And that kind of thing. But then you developed a feeling towards him, right? And so explain that to me, because when you were out, you were going through kind of a transition in a relationship way, right?
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, you started working on yourself a lot, which, isn't easy, right? And when you're looking to really establish a new relationship, some of the best stuff you can do is work on yourself. And that's what we were doing. We were really like going in there, working on yourself. and then you met somebody.
Yeah, I will lead with this, that I'm always looking and within myself to create extraordinary. And I really do try to live from that position in every way. My hobbies, my interests, what I read, what I listen to, the people I spend time with, and the people that I'm going to be in relationship with. I met someone who
That's
I was
awesome.
and not, it was, I will say that because I am in a healthier place, which means I'm always in process, but in this journey, this process, this space, um, I was open to someone that I think that both of us were in the right mind, right heart space. For alignment to come through, and something that also clearing space for the right people to come in. Had to do a little bit of that, cutting people, not cutting, but loosening, releasing people that there wasn't that alignment. Um, because I already know what I want. I'm very clear.
The qualities, the values, everything.
Very clear. It's just like my time is precious. My space is precious. And I also had lost, like I lost a parent at a young age. I'm very aware that time is it's not forever, and the people, like I was in a relationship, spent way too much time in, and I didn't know how to even trust myself enough to leave. So this has been very, I guess I would say, aligned and healing and synchronous. It feels somewhat effortless because we are on, I mean, you said the other day we were talking, similar vibration. And I know that can seem very esoteric and out there, but I do really believe
you have to resonate at the same level.
Yeah, it's just like anything. It's like you go to your favorite restaurant, you wear your favorite outfit, you spend time with the people you love, and there's something about that feeling, that knowing, like I can trust myself. So I think I'm at a higher level of self-trust, and that also allows me to have healthy boundaries with myself when I'm interacting. So yes, this relationship is essentially modeling, I think, a lot of the work that I've been doing. And I like this word, becoming insular, like really getting, clear, and that we are all just energetic beings sharing this space. And it's an act of kindness and to really want to connect with someone that aligns. So I feel very, very excited and very loving person that I'm spending time with.
Well, he's a lucky guy, and to form a connection with somebody, especially in today's world, and
we could connect deeply.
The question I want to ask, and I think a lot of people would be interested too, like for you to explain, being you have such a big heart, you're a beautiful woman. Explain like dating and relationships over the course of like say like your 20s, 30s, 40s, and you share your age if you like, sure. but I think that the main thing that I'm really getting at too, before you answer this, but is that that this second half of your life, if you will, right, is so important, and it's really like you've learned so much in the younger part of your life. And I think a lot of people can be like disgruntled or lose hope or just kind of tap out, if you will, right? And before I allow you to, because I really want you to go down this rabbit hole, is that like I'm a product of I always look at people I work with. I'm you, you're me, right?
You're like, yes.
And I was devastated by a divorce, right? And then I wasn't sure, like, where do I go from, whatever. And I was very fortunate. I met somebody, and I was able to, I think that through karmic energy, the universe, whatever you want to call it, Jesus, I don't know, that I was gifted, you know?
Yeah.
But what I did is I always believed that I had so much love to give, and it hadn't been effectively received.
Oh.
And if I was dating somebody and it wasn't going well or whatever, or whatever, I just always held on to that, and I never lost sight of that. And I knew that like I would eventually, and it's not that I needed somebody, it was not that I was like, and it just was, that's what I just knew to be true, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I stayed with it. And but please go ahead and talk about
I can just share like I love reverse chronological. I mean, the person I am today, I'm much healthier, and I didn't realize I was carrying an old model. So I'm 49. I was carrying a model that was modeled to me generations. And I recently was reading Breaking the Cycle, Marion Bouquet, who talks about the ancestral trauma.
Okay.
But it's not even, just get rid of the trauma. We are all passing down remnants of DNA. It's stored on a cellular level, whether we know it or not. And I think she says it's like over 200 imprints that have been made on us that we have no awareness. So when we talk about relationship connectivity, I love that you said you had so much love to give, because I do feel that is where I am. It's like
heart-centered, and a lot of women are heart-centered and nurturing. Yeah, you're very nurturing. You have a very nurturing energy,
which can be also, taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
And, I think too, being a nurse, I had, my background is to advocate for those in need, like to look for a need, like the heroine. Like I actually almost like it's the sixth sense, like sensing in to when people are not well.
I gotta help.
So then it's like, then they could be seeing the whole like whatever codependency, but it essentially, I think today who I am, when I knew when I was in healthy alignment, I wouldn't be fighting for my position, number one.
Right.
And I do have a very strong stance of who I am and what I want and I think maybe it could be my age, but I will say I've kind of always been that way. And it could be interpreted as opinionated, but like having, I know kind of who I am, what I want. I like to take up space. I'm not looking to stay in a small space. So going backwards, today, this person, yes, I'm able to take up space. There's no competition. There's this genuine sense of love and connectivity. And it's like, we are going to build this out. I'm really enjoying right now what we're creating. So going back, I had my round with dating, people like to use the word narcissist. I think I was attracted to, people in general, super creative, artistic, at the top of their game. I do like creative, existential, thinkers, philosophical. But I like people who are also they're actually making things happen, pragmatic. So my energy, though, I feel like I would attract a lot of people in who, because of how I showed up.
Right.
And at some point I was like, why? I just was so frustrated. Like, why am I attracting people in who cannot love, who will not love, who won't commit? And some people are like, that's just the new. I honestly, to some degree, just came to the conclusion that this is the state of affairs. This is just where we're at. There's no people like that I want that exist anymore. They've either been taken off the planet.
They don't exist anymore.
They're not here. They're not here. And I was like, so I will say I would date, people who just weren't going to be able to meet me there. We had this conversation, this guy and I, like, what was the one thing you were willing to not to say, I want a relationship. What are you willing to give up to be in it? And a lot of it was the deep intimacy of like being known. And it's like, when to know that I may not be able to have that, and I could just find it outside of the relationship. So that was to me like such a deep sense of loss, because I have seen so many people over the years either married, not being known, being in unaligned partnership, not being happy, having children together, all these things. I know. So yeah,
Your own truth, right?
yeah, it's like you don't even like, oh, and I would hear my husband, he doesn't care, he doesn't know, and there's no one's talking, and I'm like, that's not what I want. I don't want that kind of relationship. So I dated a lot, and actually, I'll back up. I divorced at 40, and I was terrified. I was in a long-term, almost 14-year marriage that was very devastating emotionally and many other ways. But, it was the fertile ground I truly believe that I needed to become who I am today.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, I know it was all, I can say that now, but, it's taken me, I didn't know, as in the keys are yours. The keys to the kingdom is like, it's yours. I'm giving you permission. You've had permission the whole time. You just didn't know. And I'm thinking how I now will perform better in relationships. I have performed better in relationships because if I can't show up as a full person, it's real hard for someone else to do it. So I will.
It's awesome.
The relationships I had were all me in a weak state, playing out a role that I saw maybe from, I don't know, 1920s. But I was just, I wasn't giving that person permission either. It was a lot of fear in the relationship, and holding on to title, position, money, like everyone's dream. Am I going to get my dream? Are you going to get your dream? What are we actually trying to do together? So the more clear I've gotten, I really believe that is how I've kind of arrived.
That's great.
Here.
I mean, that's great. I mean,
see, it's still a process.
It is a process, and it like you said, the experience that you went through brought you here, and you like the person who you are, and so that's what's really the most important progression of it all, because even moving forward, I mean, it's I've worked with women that their husband dies, right, and then they go through a period of like just being alone, and then all of a sudden they start wanting a companion, and then the dating process and how it's just completely different, and those are the type of people that you have to, again, snap them out of the past, right? Because everything is especially
right.
A widow usually has a great relationship, right? I mean, most of these guys are unbelievable, like that I've dealt with people.
That's tough.
And so do you have any, what kind of, I'll say for a female listener out there that's just, very, I guess, disappointed in the dating world and trying to find somebody that is their match or connection. What kind of advice would you give to somebody?
I would first say, find a coach, work with someone, doing talk therapy. Part of that is to become conscious and aware of what's going on, and accountability. So I did that pretty much right out the door, and I realized how much
it matters.
I needed to do that. And then I also really believe in the practice of journaling. It doesn't have to be a lot, but writing. I think The Artist's Way. I haven't actually read that book, but like I
you feel on the pages. That's all that matters. You're journaling.
I was like, I'm writing details, so it's very interesting, and I do believe, we are writing, we are releasing, and we can even, so that's a part of my process. And then I also have done, retreat work, like so finding a retreat, finding an experience.
Not being afraid to
put yourself out there, being vulnerable. I think the act of vulnerability, it's amazing what takes place when we say, I'm really scared. I don't know, how getting clear about what you may want, even if you don't fully see it, get an image. and then be willing to put yourself in a position to talk about it, to be vulnerable, to open up. And I should say coaching, finding a coach or talk therapist, but I also call it a mentor. I mean, it's a mentor, it's an expander, somebody who actually kind of holds your vision, right? And I think had I listened to some people, maybe I would have thought this is not available for me. Me to have a healthy relationship is not available. I haven't seen it modeled in my life. So I found people that were demonstrating these behaviors. And some of it may have been a person on television, or it was a book I was reading, a memoir.
That were living it.
Yeah. And I also did a lot of, I really would read like a book every quarter, and I've read so many books out there.
So you were keeping yourself on track a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You kept accountability and going through the process and not giving up.
Yeah.
Just working on it.
Yes. And then also just, again, pushing myself, I believe in like finding places, spaces to do the work, the inner work, creating, clearing, energy clearing.
That's awesome.
Taking care of your physical health, all about it. I was like running myself, I called running was my therapy.
You're right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, just anything to get me out of my head.
Yeah, well, you have to change your environment. You have to get up and move.
Oh, yeah. Movement, healthy eating, all of that was a part of it too.
When I work with guys, I find that they stay in the same positions and environments all the time. So the energy is stagnant. It always stays the same. And sometimes, women, similarities too, where they don't, they're not breaking away to allow the energy to shift, right? And one thing I've noticed that I want to share is working with a lot of women that you would think when it comes to men and relationships, you would think that women having their own soundboard of friends would be a good thing. And what I have found, it's not. Again, having friends and having a support system, absolutely.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a lot of integral things in the dating world and relationships, sometimes it can make things very muddy and messy.
Yeah.
If that's the only feedback system you're getting in that way.
Yeah. So what about the outside?
Yeah, absolutely.
Media circle.
And I think it's sometimes hard for women to like, trusting, you trust these friends that you trust, but understanding that like they can't provide everything. They're not going to, give you the added lift that you're looking for in that way. I mean, again, in how you qualify friendships, right? Some can be super conscious. Some are more of a simple, and that's nice. That's okay. That's, it just depends. Like we all have different types of relationships. Some people, we can just have the ability to sit down and like connect instantly and be able to talk without any filters or barriers or anything,
I have to say this. I know it's probably been said or quoted. On the edge of your comfort zone is where real growth and transformation happens. And I've experienced this when I was doing, competitive sports. Anytime I would push myself into a place where there's some uncomfortability, but I still trusted myself to some degree. That would be what I would recommend for anyone. If they relationship, job, whatever you're thinking that you want to create, it's available. I think it's all available. It's a construct of our mind.
Just have to be able to drive yourself and not give up. And I think a lot of times people, just don't want to push themselves super hard in that way. They don't, and they expect it to come kind of easy, like it did maybe in high school or whatever, especially meeting somebody now at the place you're at in your life, it's not easy, and you did it. You were able to,
and not giving up, because people, like, it's just how we can get so lost on the journey.
Right.
in this like down and out, and people make, unfortunately, we see, so even with social media, just so much, feed that we're receiving, hearing and maybe seeing.
Everything's perfect.
Yeah.
Everything's amazing.
Yeah,
And
but it's really, yeah,
I'm living my best life ever.
exactly.
And
Filters, this and that. You don't even know who's real, who's not.
Right. Yeah, it's a whole different world.
And I want to say this about you. Like, you have this beautiful essence. Like, we are connecting on the spiritual plane, and it's just, we have this physical shell. We're here, but the deeper work, all that we're talking and what you're offering people is to connect on that level, to actually, it will radiate out. It's going to be a chance for transformation that goes all the way out and around, changing the outer.
Well, thank you. I think for myself, I just got to a point in my life where I just don't really care about anything other than the reality of what we're living.
Yeah.
And helping people just get there. It's interesting. There's a lot of people in this life that don't want people to succeed,
And advice that.
Yeah. And I've never quite understood that. And for me, I had a lot of struggles. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't really have it. I've had some great teachers, more later in life. And it's just, being able to, I just see us all kind of the same in the sense of like, we're in our journey. So why can't your journey be as amazing as mine, or vice versa in that way? And the things that we can do to attain that and like work on those things, because those are the most important, because I've worked with people that have a ton of money, and I've had people that were stone cold broke. And the thing is, it's like, how can somebody have so much money and be unhappy, and then somebody that may not have a lot of money be happy?
Right.
And you look at that, because if you're at least finding some sort of contentment, then you can get a way to move in the direction that you want to go, versus like being disgruntled, angry, upset, all the lower frequency things that like are dragging you down. And looking at life in terms of having a vibration of frequency that you have, that's keeping you moving. And that, whenever, say, if you get sick or you're not feeling well, usually there's something that's like keeping you down in that way. It's not that you have you don't have a aspirin deficiency or a,
right.
That's you were born without this medication, and this is what you need to, like, it has so much to do with balancing the body and the clarity of the mind, and being able to like just not allow these things to affect you, and that that things are going to affect us in ways, but it doesn't have to like knock us down. I always give myself, if something really if something happens that I wasn't anticipating or I don't like, I allow myself a certain amount of time to, if I can't process it right away, say if it's just too heavy, I allow myself a certain amount of time, and then I'm just like, that's it, you're over it, move on.
Yeah.
You're done with it. That's it.
Absolutely. And I will say, like, the practices of, for me, my healing journey that I have embraced are yoga. Because of I've always been an athlete in some way, but just
moving your body,
energy, intentional movement, connecting to the breath, vitality, life.
That's awesome.
Connection.
And you're great at it too, so you can tell, like,
enjoy.
It's doing, it's working. You can tell. You can always.
Yeah.
You can always see when it's working. It's opening the body in the right ways, allowing you to feel and to be receptive of certain things. When you really are cultivating your body, and with yoga, obviously there's many different channels of energy that are working in the body, but it's really allowing the body to be receptive. When there's no tension in the tissues, everything, especially from a frequency, was able to penetrate, and you're able to feel. When I first started doing yoga, um, my yoga teacher, and she used to tell me every day, she'd be like, "It took a lot of courage for you to be here," and I would think to myself, what is she talking about? And then after about 2 years, I walked out. I remember the day she was walking out. And she said, "It took a lot of courage to be here," and it was no longer redundant. I couldn't get out of there quick enough because I was crying my eyes out.
Yeah.
I realized what she was. I realized exactly what she was talking about, and that was probably one of the most educational processes I've had in my life. And she was just the most amazing person, and she would always she was the one who would just always say, normalize your body.
Yeah.
Normalize your body. And if you think about that, we have so many like this body dysmorphia.
Yes.
Is we're the fat shaming of what they're calling it, and all this stuff, and things, and these huge bodybuilders, and you have this huge bracket of referencing of eyes, but through it all, normalizing your body,
Okay.
just being you, just allowing your body's organs and glands to function in the most optimal way. And when I started doing yoga, I felt like I started just feeling everything. Like I felt before everything in a bad way, and now I started to feel everything in a good way.
Yeah.
And I felt like my body was crying when I first started really getting into yoga, because it was like everything started to like process through, And when I started to get really into Tai Chi, Qigong, and really like body Tibetan body cultivation, the whole thing is just how we look at the body, and how in the Western world we neglect it to really channel things, and how our body system and how well we nourish it, how well we hydrate it, how well we move it affects internal glandular flow.
Yeah. Absolutely.
In our organ system.
Yeah.
Whereas in everything, there's so much we're dealing with is aesthetic on the surface level, which is just has nothing to do with the health of the body. And when I really got into yoga initially is that like it was you're getting, because I was so stiff, it was flexibility. I mean, I was really, really stiff. I mean, because I had toxicity issues. I mean, I had tissues that were just like so painful. It was like cement. And I was just like, wow, this is unbelievable. Like how this is a whole system within a system that like when you're doing these poses and these things like this, they're affecting aspects internally of the body, but then how you're approaching your life with this practice is so important too. And very at a very deep grassroots level, and then from there, I just couldn't get enough of Tai Chi, Qigong, and then when I started doing body work, my teacher was she was a guru, and she basically said, if no one will make it through my course unless you get very proficient in Tai Chi.
Yeah.
And I had already been doing years of martial arts, and I had been trained in the discipline of Chinese boxing, so I knew how to do Tai Chi, and I had done little bits of Tai Chi, but then I just started really getting into Tai Chi, and then I became her star pupil, because, I was like, okay, I'm going to get really good Tai Chi. But her whole thing was that she said, and I never heard anybody talk about this or anything in that dimension. She said that if you knew how to do Tai Chi well, you'll never hurt yourself working on somebody.
Nice.
And you'll deliver the best body work if you and then again I just stayed true to that. I was like, okay, she must be really saying something here about this. And so that was the whole thing. And so I got so into Tai Chi, and then I'm doing the body work, and she taught us so much about all the different muscles and she was amazing. And so
It's incredible.
I learned so much from that. And for yoga as well. So explain to me how you really kind of fell into yoga. How long have you been doing it, and what drove you to it?
I've been practicing for a little over 15 years. I was kind of at the bottom, bad, really kind of in my relationship, just a lot of heaviness. And I ended up in a yoga class, which it was about 100 people, and it was mat to mat, and had an incredible instructor. And the thing that really stood out to me was the heart connection in this class. So I ended up at the end of the class for the first time hearing a loving kindness phrase, including the phrase, "I love you." This man in his class had brought, people were lined up wanting to get in there. And I'm sharing that because it was what brought me in deeper into the practice. So the interest to the practice, to see that it wasn't just a physical.
Wasn't just flexibility training.
There was a lot of philosophy, a lot of other messaging happening. And so from there, I've been, through all different types or practiced different types. And then a couple of years ago, I actually went out to Joshua Tree and did a yoga teacher training intensive, and decided to really maybe teach privately. I did work in a studio before I moved here. I was living in Texas. So I started doing, I started my own company around yoga and meditation. And the goal was to really just cultivate spaces for people to do their own inner work.
Okay.
And one of the things I'm going to be doing is a yoga or a retreat experience, a wellness retreat.
Well, that's right. You coming out to the Camp Vortex Mystic Sky Desert Ranch. Yes.
With one of my mentors who's going to be joining me, who will be doing sound healing, yoga, meditation. So we'll be coming together to do that.
Amazing.
He's going to be flying in. Really excited. That's this October. So it's been a journey, and I'm still on it. I've had the luxury and pleasure of traveling and being in, exotic places and retreat experiences with yoga.
That's great.
So I would hope to be able to bring some of those experiences back.
So where can people sign up for, and when is this?
So
I know it's out at the property. I apologize on the date, but I know it's
October the 11th to the 13th, and you can find me on social media, on Instagram, Evolution W Christy, or at illumemeditate.com. Signing up for the retreat. There's a access for people to be able to register.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, Christy, thank you so much. I enjoy your presence, who you are, talking with you and everything.
This was
oh my gosh, this was a treat. If for anybody who wants to find out more about what we offer at Camp Vortex Retreats, it's campvortexretreats.com, and stay tuned for all kinds of different interviews and guests that we're going to have on the show. In the meantime, blessings. See you soon, my friends.